Good morning, everybody. Lee Brower here. Welcome to this week's edition of Meaningful Monday. I am grateful to be here. I am glad to be here. Who owns your past? Who owns your past? I think all of you would say, well, I do. I take responsibility. I own my past. All right, is it an asset or liability? I guess that depends, doesn't it? Because it depends on what I use my past for. If I blame things on my past, if I live in my past and say, if that hadn't happened, you know where I'd be? It's not much of an asset. Not much of an asset. But if you look at your past and you reframe it and you capture it and you use it, it can truly become an asset. Let me tell you about Larry. Larry was a friend, good friend. He and his wife, and I was sitting down with him talking shortly after he had sold a major retail chain. Larry started with nothing. He worked his whole life, probably would be considered to be a workaholic, not because he loved work, but because he had a passion. He had 5 kids. They were now grown, starting to see some grandkids of his own. And we were sitting there talking, and I said, how are things going with the family? He said, good, good. But then I can tell that he opened up a little bit. And he said, I may have made a mistake with my kids. I don't know. He said, I think they think I didn't care about them because I was always working. I said, wow, tell me more. Tell me, did you grow up rich or poor, Larry? He said, oh, I grew up poor, but I didn't know it. Didn't realize it. When did you realize it? He says, oh, I remember the exact moment. He says, I was about 10 years old. I was under the porch playing with the dog quietly, but my parents came and sat down on the porch. They didn't hear me. They started talking about how tough things were and how they had run out of money. They were running out of food. And now I heard my mom start to cry, not just cry, sob, as my father was consoling her, saying, how are we going to feed the children? What are we going to do? Are we going to skip meals? What's going to happen? He says, I was paralyzed under the porch. I resolved, he said, in that moment that I was going to do everything possible, get a job, whatever I had to do to help support my mom and dad. They don't know why, but I went out the next day and got a job helping somebody else with a paper route because I couldn't qualify yet, didn't have it. But he paid me a penny for every, or maybe it was 3 cents, something like that, for every newspaper I could wrap for him. And I continued to work, and I collected bottles. I did whatever I could to bring money into the household. And he says, and then I got a job as a young man sweeping out a corner store of a little grocery store, just a little mom and pop store. He says, I worked on it every day. Before I even graduated, he said, I was able to negotiate a deal to buy that little store. From that little store spawned other stores, thousands of employees, thousands and thousands of customers. And I said, wow. And he said, every second, I thought about the under the porch experience. I thought about that experience there and how it drove me to become the man I am today, to be able to have the success that I had. I said, Larry, that's an inspiring story. Have you told your children? Dead pause. No. You've never told your children this story? No. Why not? I don't know. I guess I was too embarrassed. I said, Larry, right now is the time. And I looked at his wife and said, you get your children, you pull them together, and you guys tell them that story. And that's exactly what they did. Now, what did Larry do, really? He took an experience asset that he had, and he capitalized it because he captured it. And then he shared it with others. And what did that do to the story? It exponentially increased the value of that story because now it's moving out. They talk about legacy being something that you live, but legacy is what you leave, they talk about legacy being about something that you leave. But legacy really is about how you live. It's something that you can live. And if you can instill that in others, what a blessing. If he had died without passing that story on to his descendants, the experience would have died with him. They never would have known or truly understood him or what drove him. Think of the gratitude and the appreciation that's been elevated. You see, our experience assets are among our most valuable possessions, but we don't capture them. It's like getting a check and putting it on the desk and never putting it in the bank, and we can't withdraw it. They only reach their highest and truest potential when we share them with the people to whom they will mean the most. So today, what do you think is a favorite story that Larry's children now tell their children? Instead of feeling neglected because of their workaholic dad, Larry's children tell their children the under the porch story and how Grandpa built this business that guaranteed financial stability, that fed families, thousands and thousands of families. What a great experience. So let me ask you, what experience have you had that have been defining moments in your life? And I'll bet you there's some that you haven't thought about for a long time. So ask yourself the question, what experiences have I had in my life that I can learn from? And what are those lessons? What are those experiences that you've had that might benefit others and allow them to stand on your shoulders, progressing further than they might have if they just knew and understood the lessons and the wisdom that you have? So my question for this week is, how can you capture the experience of your family, your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, your aunts, uncles, etc., and bank them for future withdrawals? That's your legacy. Would you rather leave your family $1 million, or would you rather leave them the ability to make better choices based upon your experience in past? I think you know the answer. Now, there's numerous ways about doing this. I think in future episodes, we're going to give you some more clues on how you can capture even better the stories that you're having in your life. So have a meaningful week. Make it meaningful. Capture and capitalize. Remember the under the porch experience. I'll talk to you next week. Oh, yes, we will. Make it meaningful. Bye-bye.